You're listening to Real Estate for Real People, hosted by the Stone Sisters. The Stone Sisters have built an award-winning realty business, and they're here to share some of their knowledge with you. A new episode drops every Thursday. If you enjoy the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And visit www.stonesisters.com for more information just like this.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Real Estate for Real People. I am excited, and I know I say excited all the time, so maybe I'm going to come up with something else, but I am intrigued, I'm interested, I'm happy that we're going to have a conversation today with a local appraiser. We've been working with Chris Roworth for many years. You are from Okanagan Appraisals. You've helped us in many situations, and I have to say, an appraiser is a tough job. You're sort of in this love-hate relationship a little bit. You get some sides that love you and some sides that don't as much. I have to say that you have always been just a pleasure to work with. So we love you. And we're excited to talk about this today. So we're going to talk about, the appraisal process here for those of our listeners that maybe are not from here or just not familiar with what the process is that appraiser goes through. How do you appraise a property? What are some of the things that you're looking for? Some of the things you can do to maybe potentially increase that value. Then you want to certainly tune into this conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone over to you. Please, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the Okanagan and doing what you do?
Thanks for having me, Shannon. Chris Roworth, Okanagan Appraisals. I've been a member of the Institute since 2000, so I've been doing this job for about 23 years.
Wow.
Prior to that, I started like yourself as a realtor in Vancouver in my early 20s, and then I sold real estate and franchises for a couple of years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
perfect background. That's great.
And that's what you need. You need a varied background to do the job, in my opinion, because you have to see a lot of product. You have to know the churn rate. And then once you know it, it gets easier. Look, in the beginning, it's very hard because who are you working for? What are you doing? What's it worth? Mm-hmm. When are you going to be exposed? Who are you exposed? You don't know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So you certainly want to have someone that has that background and knowledge that has kind of been around the block a bit that can understand and see that.
Yeah, the odometer is getting pretty high. At 23 years,
you've seen everything.
At 1,000 a year, I'm probably between 20 to 25,000 personally.
Wow.
And then my company is well over 80,000. So
tell us about Okanagan Appraisals. How long has the company been around for?
It's existed since the early 70s. We can only, our tagline is trusted service since 1980 because we can only really prove since the early 80s.
Yeah.
It was born in the Okanagan out of a commercial firm called Kent McPherson.
Yes.
And the irony is one of the partners there, his wife, my wife went to high school together in Toronto.
Yeah.
And they met here in baby yoga class. So it's kind of funny that I own the company. It's a nice little anomaly. But yeah, it started in early 70s. And then in the 80s, that's when our database started to grow. Mm-hmm. And it was incorporated in the early 90s.
Awesome. So been around for a long time.
A long time. So that's where our data bank is really helpful for unique properties, unusual properties, just knowing what's happened over 50, 60 years on some parcels.
Yes,
and how they've changed.
I bet. Yeah, super interesting. I mean, it's funny because when you say the 70s, my dad started in the real estate industry in the 70s. Yeah, Bruce, my dad. So it's funny because we have that knowledge bank. So I know what you say is it's nice to have that reliance. And, not often, but once in a while. And if you're asking my dad, he'd say it's all the time. But, we do go and ask him questions about, okay, what about this? Or what happened in the 80s when everything crashed and people were throwing their keys back at the bank and, that sort of stuff. So it's nice to have that background to rely on, Anyway, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what is the appraisal process? What does that look like?
So we'll narrow it to a transaction that you and I might have.
Yeah.
So you'll have a listing. Who's ever buying the property requires a loan. Mm-hmm. So access to credit is key in closing any transaction. Mm-hmm. There was years ago, I believe you and I and your sister were at a luncheon where one of our former mayors was talking about how almost no properties in Okanagan have loans on them. And I didn't want to laugh at him, but when I do 3,000 to 4,000 a year,
you're thinking, no, I don't think those numbers add up.
It's not possible. It just doesn't make any sense. So they'll either deal with a local branch, a local broker, there might be a private wealth client, whatever happens. Mm-hmm. Either it's a broker transaction that comes through our website. It might be what's called an appraisal management company.
Right.
There's 5 of them in Toronto. We have contracts with 4 of them. The 5th one doesn't do any business.
Okay.
And that'll just come in our stream or portals, and our admin will accept them, assign them appropriately to either myself or one of my team. And then we'll contact you guys, usually, which is great with this efficiency. It's just a text.
Yep.
We have the central access. So it's about access. And we already know the scope of work, who we're working for and what we're doing. It's a purchase. It's basically what the loan is, and what they're paying is it worth it? Can we back that up? And then it can be other aspects, the market rent aspect, which is part of their qualification, suites, legal, not legal. There's a whole bunch of these layers that we sort of funnel down. We want to make it very narrow so that we know exactly what we're doing and who we're working for and what we're there to accomplish. We're not there to aid the transaction, but we're a part of it in a small piece. Then we want to drift back and be a ghost within it.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yeah. No, that makes
forgotten.
sense. That makes sense. So when you appraise a property, it's different, because a lot of times we'll get clients that reach out to us and say, okay, for what have you, they're wanting to refinance, they're wanting to do something, and they want us to give them an evaluation. And we explain that an evaluation is very different than an appraisal. And they may want an appraisal, and they might be required to get an appraisal done, certainly even in situations where people are separating or some of those situations as well. And, an evaluation, we look at the past sales, we look at what's currently on the market, and we can give some speculation as to what's happening in the market. Our fingers on the pulse, we know sort of where the market's going, and we can speculate on that. For you, it's a little different because you really look at the history, right?
That's right. I think that's where we divert. You're projecting, which is that's your goal. You're there to sell. Yeah. And we're looking at what's happening in this micro minute, like a stock. That's where people get lost, where they're like, I had an appraisal done, especially when the market trended down and 9, 10, they'd always hold up. Hey, I had this 2007 appraisal. And I was just throw it away.
Yeah, it's not relevant now. It's okay. It's gone.
Like March of last year.
Yes, so true.
I got this great development appraisal. Well, so that we are looking in hindsight or recent history.
Yes.
And I always tell people it's like a stock. It moves. It doesn't generally jag it down, or it does trend up a bit in some products very fast, others not so much.
It depends on the sales history to prove the value, I guess.
That's right.
So it depends what the market's doing.
That's exactly it.
Right. Yeah. But it's really the nuts and bolts or the hard facts of a property. There's not the speculation. I think we sell, and that's the difference between appraisers and realtors. We sell on emotion. That's right. I think you're not selling, but you're looking at the facts. Okay, the square footage, the
science of it, and then the art is that experience. And you have to sort of meld the two of them. Yeah,
that's right. So I think it's just for people to understand and our listeners to understand that's that difference there. And as you said, because last year and the year prior, the market was just going up.
That's right.
And, our sales now are down. Our values are down. So, of course, the appraisal values are going to be down as well.
Yeah, a little bit. But it hasn't trended that far in the negative of perception.
Let's talk about that. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that the market is very good. I was really shocked in the first quarter when our number of sales were down about 30%, give or take, whatever that hard number was. But our median and average prices were not dropping. They were still rising.
Yes.
And I was trying to break down, what does this mean? Well, what it meant was everything over $1 million, our transactions were way up. Under $1 million were plummeting. So we were diverting as a market. We're becoming like a typical American town where going up and the other ones are going down. So that gap is widening.
Yes.
And it kept going on and on and on. So that was interesting to watch, because when number of sales go down, your average, your prices should go down. And they were not.
The law of economics is, And
we've been defying that for many years.
Yes.
The big change in our market, how it's performing now to how it changed in that 7, 8, 9, 10, is that what I tell everyone now is our market has its own churn rate within itself. It's nice that people from the lower mainland come up, or Alberta or the East, like every area code is coming here.
Yeah, I agree.
Every area code. They're all just coming, and now they know and everything. So our lifestyle is out there. They want it.
Yeah.
But within ourselves, people are moving internally. They're not just coming out from somewhere and then this is a second home. Because that's where our market was very exposed in the recent sort of turbulent time, was anyone under distress would just let go of that second or third property.
Right.
They would just let the bank take it and hold their base. Well, if this is their base, they don't do that.
No, that's true. And that's interesting, actually. I was talking to someone yesterday and they said, so, we were talking about the luxury market, but just overall market and saying, well, is it people that are buying, is it second residences like we saw in 2006, 2007? Right. That was a big segment of our market, the Alberta buyer. Everybody was talking about the Alberta buyer. And I would say majority of the buyers are buying their principal residence here. They're moving here. They're moving here and spending their money here and staying here.
And they have money.
They have money. That's a big thing.
And that's why our median averages were rising a hair, even though our sales were plummeting, because that over $1 million was almost flat year over year. Like I think it was 1,000 to 1,004 sales. Like it was almost no change, but below $1 million, drastic change.
Yeah. The
rate sensitive buyer, they don't have access to credit. They don't have companies. They don't have passive incomes, all these things that, generate that $2 or $3 or $4 million sale.
Well, and the interest rates affected that segment of the market tremendously, as you're saying, but their buying power suddenly changed. So instead of buying a house, they're now maybe looking at a townhouse, or maybe they're out of the market for the time being.
Absolutely.
To wait.
Absolutely.
So what are some things, because this is something too, people go, okay, we've got a deal pending. This is great news. And we say, oh, the appraiser wants to come through. And our clients go, okay, so I had the inspection. Now I've got the appraiser. What can I do?
Do nothing.
So
just let them in.
Just let them in. Open up and let them in.
Be polite, let them in, and just get out of their way. And be nice. Like, and if the person who's coming to the door is not giving that same respect, don't let them in.
Yeah.
Because that's our complaints too. I'm a board director for the province, and the complaints are ridiculous. It's just like any realtor, right? It's the same thing. Like people are people, they're going to do the best and they're going to do the worst.
Yeah, it's so true.
So appraisers are no different. When they act wacky, don't let them in.
Yeah, there's good and bad in every industry.
Get another one. Just get another one.
Just get somebody else in there.
Yeah, just let them in, let them walk around and access. Our problem with our staff and inspections generally is, Joshua was sick today. He's in this room, and my roommate and my cousin and my grandmother, and you can't see most of the house. So if you're working for an EA lender, they want you to see the whole place. Any B lender, forget it. They want to see a picture of everything. So that's going to hold it up. That's going to hold it up. So if we don't get let in,
you can't take pictures.
I'm not going to kick down the door. I tell my staff, just politely do your thing. And if they don't allow you access, you let them know what you're going to do. I need pictures of everything. If they don't let you do that, then it's their house. You don't have any power. Just leave.
Yeah.
And if it cancels their deal or if it hedges it, then that's so be it. If you have to go back again,
then you have to go back again.
Charge again. We charge again.
Of course, your time is valuable. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think access and just allowing it to move smoothly is helpful. But cleaning and staging and we don't
having cookies out, none of that helps.
We don't care.
We don't need to bake cookies for you guys anymore. Okay. No, I'm kidding.
Just don't use the bathroom and have it really stink when we go in there.
Yeah,
like,
fair enough.
That's
fair enough.
What I mean? Like that's the part where I'm like, come on, man. Like,
didn't you know we were coming? But they don't have to go to all the, neat and tidy.
I tell them to relax. I just tell them to relax. Like we're there to make sure that the roof hasn't fallen in. Essentially, that it's lendable.
Yes.
There's two aspects there, that it's lendable and that the other side is, which is a little dark, but if my client has to own this, can they sell it?
Right.
Those are those two things.
Right. Lendable and can they return and sell it?
Like it might be worth it, but maybe it's next to a gas station and a highway overpass and all these problems. And it might be worth it, but maybe it's not really lendable.
Right. Right. Now, do many appraisals happen without walking through? You've kind of just answered that.
Yes.
Okay, they do. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So during COVID, we would do risk assessments, figuring out if we should go in.
Yeah.
There was a time when we weren't going in, and it was called a modified full appraisal. So you'd still do a site visit, but you weren't going in. Those are painful because you still have to describe it on the inside. Our database was terrific because generally we've been there before.
Right,
and a good listing, or we had a lot of data really to package it and just make those disclaimers of what we did and what we didn't do.
Right.
But there are drive-by appraisals, there are desktop appraisals, and those are from the exterior or from your computer. But those are a limited scope, and only certain aspects can be ordered on those, which has to be first mortgage financing only.
Right.
And on a desktop, you have to have really recent MLS data. If you don't have that, then
forget it.
Yeah, you just don't do it. And generally on our website, on the direct order, they want to order the cheapest thing. I'm like, sorry, I'm in like, look, they have to, educate a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you need it for? And that's the whole question. If no one wakes up in the morning and wants someone to come into their home and take pictures, there's always a reason. I'm getting sued. I'm going through divorce, buying, I'm selling an estate, whatever the reason.
Yeah. No, that's true. What are some of the challenges that you find in the industry? Like what are, I guess not being allowed access to a property, that makes it challenging, but has there been anything else that you find as challenges being an appraisal right now? Or past challenges. I'm sure the market we just came through, the crazy market, I'm sure that was a bit challenging because turnaround people were wanting it really quickly.
Yeah. I think, when you build any business and you want your, your cloud system to be full of orders, it's terrific. But when your staff has been, like, we never saw any downtime at all. So as soon as the market started turning off in March 2020, our staff was a little concerned, but I said, no, you got nothing to worry about. Like, people are broke. They're going to rush to credit. And that's what happened.
Yes.
And we were from March until June, it was crazy busy.
I guess, of course, because you'd have everybody wanting to refinance.
Yes.
And
now
so
our sales were, it's a false market because we didn't know where it was going. But I was hoping that the June 2020 that would restart, and it did. I wasn't expecting that restart to be like a ricochet rocket that was never going to end. And that wave kept cresting and cresting and cresting. I wasn't expecting that. I thought we'd build. But yeah, that was a problem because our turnaround got poor and we had too much to do. Yeah. Which is a good problem, but at a certain point,
but still a concern. Yeah.
It's like your staff. You can only motivate them so long until they're tired, right?
Right. It's true. You're like, how come you can't work 24/7? Come on.
So what I told everyone at the end of last year, I said, because you could see it sort of drifting down. I said, look, we're not going to be as busy as we're used to, but we still have work. There's a lot of panic in the market. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's lots of work for us to do, but we're not going to be, full all the time of jobs. So just do a good job, do your thing, and we'll just get through the cold winter. And now it's starting to perk up again, and it's nice. But that was a big challenge of just the turnaround because I have expectations and they weren't being met, and there's not much we could really do about it.
No, but don't you find it's funny because we had the same with our agents too? Is everybody was so used to working this 24/7, this frenzied market, and all of a sudden you get to a normal market and they think, oh my gosh, it's doom and gloom, and you're thinking, no, this is normal.
This is
like
nice.
you actually have time to go for a coffee in the middle of your day. You can pick up your kids from school.
You can have a life.
You can have a life outside of real estate. You don't have to be, still be working at 10 o'clock at night. That's normal.
Well, that's what drifted me into this profession too, as an agent or as a franchise person. Traveling in the weekends and evenings, I didn't want to live that life. So no evenings and weekends is, my evenings are for playing hockey. My weekends are for skiing, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Now, I think you've done an appraisal for us on a weekend, maybe. No?
Well, for you, anything, of course.
Thank you. So some of the things that determine an appraisal or a value, I mean, we look at square footage. I assume for you guys, it's the same thing. We look at square footage, number of bedrooms, the location.
Yes.
Is it the same for you, or is there anything different?
What is it and where is it? Like, I don't really... that location thing that everyone gets really excited about. But what is it and where is it are the two key things, because it could be a great area next to the hospital, but it could be an unlivable home. It could be land dominant, or it could be over improved. Right. Especially when you get homes that are about 25 to about 35 years old that are very large square footage, right? Like, there's value there.
Yeah, for sure.
But it becomes a depreciating asset where if you have 10,000 square feet and you need flooring. So
true. You're right.
And you want to fluff that house to be sort of a more contemporary home, that could be $200,000. Yeah. You've only done the flooring, and now that you have nice flooring of an old home. So
you have to plus and minus for that. That's a tricky part, actually.
That's where that sort of art instead of science sort of drifts in there a little bit, because when you have a very large home that is a nice area, but it's not competitive in the market. And now what do you do? Right. And people are like, oh, I got a really big home. I got 10 bedrooms and 18 bathrooms. Yeah. Great. In 1989. And
the cost to, transform all of that is significant. Yeah. So
those are tricky ones.
That would be tricky. And we find the same thing.
It's exactly the same, because a homeowner wants to know, why isn't it selling? And you have to smile and go, you have a beautiful home.
Yes, you do. Little minor tweaking we might need to do.
Because people take it very personally.
They do.
And that's where the other side of this profession is. They take it personally when their expectations aren't met. And they can't be met for many reasons. Lender expectations. For sure. Whatever it is. Generally, it's the market around them that's capping them. Right.
Well, at the end of the day, it is for an appraisal, it's a bit different. For us, it's the buyer that really ultimately determines the value of the property. What are they willing to pay for that?
That's what market value is. When something's on the property, appropriately exposed to the market, competitively priced. Yeah. Two people coming together. And that's it.
That's it. The rest is history. Yeah. Okay, so a couple more specific questions. Something that has a suite, a property has a suite. How much value does that? And I know this is pretty general, but for the most part, can you say?
let's take the last couple we've done for you as examples. I won't cite the addresses, but like a 2-bedroom suite, something that is plus or minus about $2,000 a month is generating between $300,000 to $400,000, in my opinion, of value.
Right.
Because that's what the borrowing
the income
power
comes.
Yeah, where
Makes
it helps
sense.
them get into that home and service that debt.
Okay, so that makes sense. So say that again. If you've got, if it's generating or your rent is
$2,000 plus or minus. You're looking, and again, because we're this rate area now where it's wild, am I getting 3% or 8%?
I know.
So that wide scope of $300,000 to $400,000, because at a very low rate, you're getting a lot more buying power out of it. But on a higher rate, obviously, it scales down a bit.
Right.
But the suites are very helpful in that it gets people in. If the market is a triangle, you're getting more meat of that market of people who can afford that home.
Right.
And more
makes
buyers.
Sense. I didn't realize it was actually that much per suite. That's great.
You just throw it in a mortgage calculator. What does $2,000 a month get you?
It's so true.
And
and that's it.
That helps it. And the other side is the legality of the suite.
I was just going to say, now if it's not a legal suite.
I know. So, being on a board and on some national panels, we just had a Appraisal Institute of Canada webinar of how to get us all on the same page, right? Because every market has their own Wild West.
Right.
So what we're finding, it's easier to define what is a legal suite and what's not a legal suite in our market. It's just in the city of Kelowna, and then you have all the districts around us that have their own way of doing it. But they're starting to get on the same page. Now the wrinkle that's coming into the market is our short-term licensing, which won't give a license for for self-contained suites or carriage houses. Okay, so the market has a way of finding its own way.
Right. Where
people are like, I want this short-term license because I want an Airbnb. This is what I'm going to do. So they decommission the suite. So the suite is no longer a legal suite.
Right.
Technically.
Right. Yeah.
So my question to our governing body is, now what? It's legal.
Yeah.
So you get in this weird area. So we are not legally allowed to give income for that suite.
Of course.
As an independent unit, but more as the house as a whole.
Right.
And then
you can use the square footage, the bedrooms, but
that finish still has value.
Yeah, for sure.
But not 2,000 down, 4,000 up.
Right, not
maybe
that same.
Maybe 5,000 for the whole house, as an example.
No, that makes sense.
And then the underwriters can pull their gray hairs out about how they're going to package that. That's beyond us.
Yeah, you just give them the number and there they go. Okay, so another question is lake views.
Yes.
How much value do you put on a home that has a lake view versus one that doesn't? And that's, I know, very general.
Well, yeah, it's more about the value of the property. So if we're in something like High Point, as an example, a great community. So you have some properties that don't have a great view and some that have tremendous view. So I apply percentage of sale price as an adjustment, a 5 or 10, maybe 15, that would be a little high.
Interesting.
Somewhere to 5 to 10%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's great to know.
Yeah.
So it's, for us, we sometimes look and we're like, okay, depending on the view, depending on the location, is
That's right.
100, 200, but I like that as a percentage.
It's a percentage because then, and if you scale it back and if you scrape off the improvements of what that land was worth, then that really helps. So if you can look at more subdivision homes, like in Kettle Valley or Upper Mission or even on Black Mountain, where you'll see the view lots are selling for one price, where there'll be the one-story walkouts, and then the grade levels are selling for another price. And you can look at that and figure out what is the difference.
Right.
Which is a little bit, but it's not a huge difference.
No, it's not.
And then once it's improved, that difference escalates.
For sure.
So, and that's what I like to look at, because you want to have the parameters be the same. Not like, hey, I'm at the end of Lakeshore in this $7 million home, and then I'm at, non-waterfront Hobson. Is it,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Huh. Okay. I had one other question. I'm trying to remember what it was with regards to appraisals and looking at, so we had the suites, we had the waterfront. Pools is something else.
Yes.
Do you put...
Yes. Pools are valuable.
For sure.
In our market, they're valuable.
Well, and especially right now.
But where are you? That's the thing. Where is it and what is it, right?
True. And how old is the pool? Does it need work? It's the same thing, right?
If you're in not a great area of town, and your house is probably worth $800,000 and you spend $150,000 on your pool.
Yeah.
Not a good investment.
No, I agree. But if you're looking at two equal houses, say Upper Mission.
Well, that one that we were just discussing, the spread was $75,000. It's essentially the same house, same lot, same location. because what's that pool cost to put in? Somewhere in that. And it's not
75
just a pool.
to 100. Because there's the concrete
I know,
and everything else.
That's the thing. It gets crazy. The auto cover, the concrete surround. It's got waterfall feature, whatever it's got going on. It's not.
So it's not a blanket price. Okay, you've got a pool, check, it's 75. You do go in, look at the pool and go, okay, waterfront, or it has a water feature and it has this or that. Okay, we're going to add a little bit more.
I just finished a custom build last week and the pool was $318,000.
I was just going to say sometimes they're,
So.
I know.
And it's still just a pool.
It's just a pool at the end of the day, but it's a very nice pool.
It's a very nice pool. It was very nice. It's the most expensive one I've seen is $1 million replacement cost.
Wow, really?
And that home's on the market for $23 million right now.
Okay.
That one.
I know the one. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just a pool.
It's a pool. It's a nice
very
one.
Nice
it's a very nice one.
Crazy though, hey? Yeah, so I guess it really all depends. Just the same with us in houses too. So
it fluctuates. So it's about what is that pool attached to?
Yeah.
And where is it?
And how nice is it? And
the other side that can be a factor is access. So if it doesn't have a pool and you can't access that rear lot to put a pool, I think that's more detrimental. If that market really trends towards a pool, that's difficult.
I agree.
But if access isn't a problem, that's something that can be cured.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's so true. And it's funny because a lot of times we get clients, they look at a property and they're like, yeah, this is great. We're going to put a pool in. And we go,
how?
Yeah, let's check first because your access, unless you're going to crane a pool up and over and all the dirt up and over your house, it might not happen.
You can do it. But then once they get the quote, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
Might not be worth that $300,000 for a pool.
I know.
So any other comments or questions or any little tidbits that you'd want to share with our followers?
Read our Google reviews. They're hilarious. Like you said to start, we're either beloved or we're hated. So if you either want a good laugh, they're great. I think it's in going forward, it's access to credit and consumer confidence. Mm-hmm. Those are the two things to look at. Because a consumer confidence index really follows our market all the time. When it's low, people just don't have confidence to do anything.
Right.
And if they can't get access to credit, they don't move.
Right.
They can't sell their house. They can't get the loan, and all these chains slow down.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
And people want to bait click online and market going up, market going down. Everyone has an opinion, but if you follow those basic things and you look at our market, who's leaving? Mm-hmm. Is anyone leaving town?
No. Like, what's our population projected to do? Only grow.
Only grow. And what does that do?
Get younger, which is, I find interesting.
Yeah, there was the City of Kelowna did a great presentation about how 30 years ago we were selling more adult diapers than baby diapers, and that was a bad stat to have.
It might not be the best one. I'm like, well.
It's tough, right? So the change of the bridge, the hospital and the university were something that really changed this market.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We so appreciate it. So where can people find you? So
OkanaganAppraisals.com is our site where you can order online. And we are everywhere, and you don't know it. You don't know it.
You are everywhere. No, it's so true. You are everywhere. Well, half the time we're doing it, I'm doing a deal and we get the appraisal and then I'm like, oh, it's Chris going to this one. Awesome. So thank you so much for your past work and the future work. And we will put the link down in the podcast so that people can click onto your website and contact you if they have any questions. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate for Real People. If you want to reach out to the Stone Sisters, visit www.stonesisters.com. This podcast was produced by Podigy Podcasts. See you next time.